Hey, detective. How are you? Hi, Billy Jones. You guys want a couple of scary stories? Hi, Jackie. Been thinking about you, Jackie. Hi, Christy Love. Boo. I woke up towards the last half of Carolyn's live, and I messaged her to let her know I was going to read. I didn't hear anything back. She always thinks that, Sassy Darcy, and I always think she hates me, so I was sleeping for a while. Yeah, I was. My lung in the back. I hate when I get like this, the ribs. But yeah, I'm going to read a couple stories if you guys want to listen. More of the scary ones. Okay. Just see if anybody else shows up for a minute. They probably won't, but hey, Mama Two Men. And yeah. And I contributed, Jackie. I hope you realize that. I was behind on the other one with Muppets. I didn't know anything about either or. Hey, Moo. Okay, Moo. We're going to try to be real professional tonight. Okay? Oh boy, we only have 5 people. What? So this isn't good enough for you guys, huh? 5 people. In all of YouTube land. This isn't good enough? What better entertainment? Okay, we got one more. Come on now. We got, okay, 7. Nobody leave. Nobody can leave. Sassy Darcy, round them up. Hey, Nana T. Don't let anyone leave. Once they come in, that's it. These are just weird, Mom of 2 Men. They're just weird, scary stories. Okay, Bridget, yay. Hey, hey. Hey, farm wife. How do I see new names, but it's always 5 people. Okay, now we have 6. Sassy Darcy. I didn't want to show my face. I was trying to have the computer up high till where only my head would show the top of it. Hey, Larky. You can't leave, Mom. We got 8 people. No one is allowed to. Oh, we're back down to 6. Come on, people. I am very popular. I am known all over YouTube land. Every entertainment, people in blogs, lives, everything you can think of. Here we go, back down to 5. If you're still here, please put a 1 so I can know. I'm a serious threat. I'll bet they're all watching on one TV together. Probably 1,000 people are all in one big Zoom meeting watching me. 1. Okay, Okay, we got farm wife, Christy, Nana, Mom, Jackie Burns, Sassy, Lark, Bridget. That's 8. And it's only showing 7. Come on. 8. Okay, there we go. Somebody had left and they came back. Okay. 9. Okay, here we go. Let's get this rolling, guys. Come on. Don't be afraid. 10. I'm scared Carolyn's going to come in and start yelling at me. I was sleeping for most of it. Oh, does it count me, Lark? It says 10 on the screen. I don't know if it counts me or not. Oh, of course, Moo. I didn't forget you. Not at all. I was going to say your name. Okay, I'm just going to start reading. If people are late, too bad. I'm just getting this started. We got 12. Oh, and one of these times. Oh, now we're down to 11. Whoever you are that just left, sorry, it's not good enough. One of these times I want to read this. I borrowed it from Bonnie, Burnt Hot Dog. Unsolved enigmas, incredible events that have puzzled the greatest minds. So that should be good. Some good things in there. 13, yes, lucky 13. They should have put a crazy clip. Now we're down to 12. Hey, Steph. Carolyn's doing another auction tomorrow, Steph. Okay. Hi, Jen Lucas. Even if you're a hater, don't be afraid to say hi. As long as you're nice, we'll let you listen. Because even haters like scary stuff. Okay. We're going to go with the train wreck. Remember, we read about this in my Haunted Gary book? Oh, really? Do you, Mama Two Men? Or whoever? I'll be looking for it. Okay, Moo. Take your glasses off and just listen now. Okay? I know how it goes. Have this Kleenex box to sit my book on. Here we go. Train wreck. This one's from Hammond, Indiana. Many of my fellow engineers. Hi, LMNW50. Oh, Lisa H. Cool. Okay. All right, I'm just going to read now. Many of my fellow engineers did not like riding the Michigan City line, but I had no idea why. Employees were discouraged from discussing the matter, and we newbies on the line were left to wonder. I'd been riding the rails for about 6 months when I was switched to the night shift. I didn't mind. My wife had passed away a few years back from cancer, and we didn't have any children, so things were pretty lonely around my place. I spent more time at the rail yards than I did at home. I noticed right away that the atmosphere along the Michigan City track was very different at night. Now, I'm a lifetime railroader. I've driven many a train through the darkest of nights and the brightest of dawns, and most railroad tracks felt the same no matter what time it was. But not this one. Once we were through Gary, the night grew darker, and the headlights didn't illuminate the track so well. The air along the line felt chilled and clammy, even when the temperature was in the 90s. And once, when I passed the turnoff for the Michigan Central tracks, I heard a man's voice say in a choked wail, "I was dozing." This creeped me out something terrible. Only 16. Yes, I'm snuck out when I'm not looking. Sassy Darcy, you were supposed to keep them here. Because at the time I was alone in the cab. I knew then that the track was haunted. It had to be. Either that or I was going mad, an increasingly likely option. 2 nights later, I got a call on the railroad ordering me to pull the train off onto the Michigan Central tracks leading into Hammond to allow an express train to pass us. I don't mind admitting I got the willies when I heard that. It was the very same spot in which I'd heard the phantom voice a couple of nights earlier. But orders were orders, so I slowed the train and turned off. Once we once we were clear of the other line, I stopped the train, knowing I'd have to reverse myself once the express train was through. Suddenly, I heard a hiss of steam and the chug and roar of a train from the other line. I turned to look back toward the Michigan City line, puzzled. Whoops, let's get this thing. I hope I got that hid. Those are those bots. Yes, Sassy Darcy, please. Keep your eyes open. Why was I hearing an old-time steam train coming down the line at full throttle? I was expecting a passenger express, not some old-fashioned holiday excursion special. I saw headlights coming down the track and wondered why in the world an excursion train was running at 4 a.m. And why hadn't they radioed to tell me that 2 trains would pass us instead of just one? Then I saw a red flare burst into life, followed by another, and I heard a man shouting in alarm. "What's going on?" I exclaimed, leaping out of the cab. That's when all hell broke loose on the line, literally. First, I heard a crash, then a roar, and then thud, 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 like a million bricks crashing onto a tin roof. There was a moment of terrible silence, and then the world exploded in a mind jarring blur of white light and flames that I could see and hear but not feel. A moment later, the world around me went pitch black, although the sound of the inferno continued. People screamed in pain and terror. Moans and sobs split the night air. I heard the sound of metal and wood crashing down all around me, but all I could feel was the cool night breeze on my skin. I rubbed my eyes, dazzled by the light I'd seen. Spots appeared with every blink, and I didn't know if I were seeing ghosts or just the dazzle spots you get after looking at a bright lamp. Footsteps raced past me, and I heard a man's voice desperately calling for help. "My wife," he shouted, his voice breaking with fear. "Where's my wife?" Toward the back of my own train, I heard a wordless moaning, as if someone were dying in torment. Oh no. Oh, never mind. Thought I was in trouble. Let's see. I'm dying in. I shone my flashlight in that direction, but the tracks were empty. The sounds ceased as abruptly as they started, and I heard the express train coming down the Michigan City tracks. A pair of headlights lit up the empty expanse of rails. I let out my breath, not realizing until then that I'd been holding it. Then I bolted for the cab, and I just spit. "Hey, sweet pea, I want you to keep everybody in here and round people up." Okay, there's 23 now. You're doing good, Sassy Darcy. Lisa H isn't here. I don't know. She must not have got the message or notification, I mean. Moo's here. She's in the She's just, listening, but she can see the chat. She's just not chatting. Let's see. Okay, let me get back on this. I let out my breath, not realizing until then that I'd been holding it. Then I bolted for the cab. Behind my train, the express roared past the turnoff. A moment later, the radio sounded to let me know the line was clear and I could resume my journey. I backed slowly out onto the Michigan City line, shuddering inside. Shuddering inside as I realized my train was moving over the same tracks where the fiery inferno had taken place just a few moments, or was it a lifetime ago? As I switched out of reverse and headed back down the track, I decided it was best not to mention the strange incident to my superior. He would think I was crazy, or worse, fire me for lying. I did search out one of the old timers and stood him to a drink at the local bar in exchange for information regarding the pull-off towards Hammond. He nodded wisely when I mentioned seeing a light on the tracks and hearing an explosion. That would be the circus train, he said. Bad wreck back in 1918. I pressed for more information, but that was all he would tell me. So I went to the library and looked it up. The wreck happened on June 22nd, 1918 at 3:57 a.m. The Hagenbach Wallace circus train. 25. Hi, Lisa H. Love you, boo. Decorating. Okay. You were doing that the other night, too. Thank you. I appreciate you coming. Let's see where. 25 cars containing 225 circus performers was traveling overnight from Michigan City to Hammond. Just after the Colfax Street crossing, the brakeman in the caboose spotted a hot box on one of the cars ahead. The engineer slowed the train at once, knowing a minor repair was needed that would probably halt the train for about 15 minutes. By the time the train rumbled to a stop, the first half had turned onto the Michigan Central tracks, leaving 5 passenger cars and the caboose at a standstill on the main line. Johnson, the engineer of the circus train, knew that signal 2581 had gone red behind them, telling any trains on the Michigan City line to stop, so the circus train was safe for the moment and could make the necessary repair. Hard on the heels of the circus train came engine 8485, pulling an empty troop train. The steam train was on a full throttle and didn't even slow down when it reached the Ivanhoe station or the Colfax crossing. The engineer driving the train was sick that night and had fallen asleep at the controls. I paused in my reading, goosebumps rising all over my arms and legs. Asleep at the controls? I remembered the man's voice wailing in my ear as I passed the Michigan Central line several days ago. I was dozing. I shuddered all over and went back to the newspaper account of the fatal train wreck. Remember, we read this in the Haunted Gary. The brakeman on the caboose was the first one to see the oncoming troop train. Thinking fast, he lit several flares and waved them at the approaching engine. When it didn't slow, he threw a flare directly at the cab. The flare was still sparking on the engine when the troop train crashed at full speed into the caboose and kept going, telescoping the 5 wooden passenger cars that were standing helpless on the Michigan City line. Within moments, the passenger cars were on fire, and when the fire hit the gasoline-fueled lamps, the wreck turned into a fiery inferno. When the fire died down around mid-morning of the next day, most of the dead passengers were found in a pile just in front of engine 8485. Only 24 of the bodies found at the wreck were identifiable. Most of the others were charred and mangled beyond recognition. The general manager of the circus ran a hasty tabulation of scattered employees and said it was probable that 85 persons had been killed. Most were buried in a mass grave in Showman's League Rest, a portion of Woodlawn Cemetery owned by the Showman's League of America. The list of the dead included bareback riders, animal trainers, the strongman, a famous equestrian, a family of elephant trainers, and a husband-wife aerialist team. The circus community rallied. Good night, Elliman W50. Thank you for coming. That's a good excuse. You can leave. That's a good excuse. We're at 26. The circus community rallied around the beleaguered show, lending acts and supplies. 2 days after the crash, the Hagenbeck Wallace Circus was back in business, missing only 2 of its scheduled shows that season. I turned away from my reading, saddened by the terrible tragedy that had happened so many years ago and that had been reenacted so graphically out on the tracks. I hoped that someday the memory of the terrible tragedy would fade and the circus performers and their families could rest in peace. In the meantime, I would ask my supervisor if I could switch to the day shift. I'd had enough tragedy to last me for a good long while. Ew, this one's called Granny's Revenge. This is out of Peru, Indiana. I wish they would have a story in here about our little town where we have our cottage, Buffalo. Wish they had that story about the granny that killed all of her grandsons. She didn't like boys. Thank you, Sweet Pea. I really appreciate it. Granny's Revenge. Let me take a couple of ibuprofen really quick. Let me try to hide myself. Wait, tell me if you can see.